Welcome back to DM's Guide to Dawn of Defiance. We are talking today about episode 3, The Queen of Air and Darkness. Spoilers ahead, so please, this is for GMs, DMs only that are running the Star Wars 5e version of Dawn of Defiance, or any version of Dawn of Defiance, as I'll mostly be talking about plot and storyline. The party is tasked with following the hut across the galaxy. They've got some downtime and can drop off Master Denia at the Resurgence. They can resupply and then hyperspace travel to Bespin, which would take anywhere from 6 to 11 days. I made this great opportunity for exploring downtime activities, as well as an astrogation check by my pilot, which could lower the travel time. When they exit hyperspace is the first opportunity to give them some flavor to Bespin. It's a large gaseous planet. Main plot of episode 3 has to do with Tabana gas, which is created here. In addition, it's home to Cloud City, a popular tourist destination, and home to the Royal Casino. Your party will learn about the upcoming Sabacc tournament. If they don't learn it right away, they may learn about the amount of ships coming in and being put into a long queue before they can dock. Two takeaways from arriving that they may learn: credits can get you through pesky laws, and the security is tight due to the tournament. I had a B2 unit, battle droid, who chose to stay on the ship in the docking bay due to being out in public on this planet at this time in the timeline, and we had to roleplay him sneaking out with a large cloak on through the city to join the party. And I'll be discussing more about him in the party later. Once they leave the docking bay, they're sort of left without direction. They are tasked with just asking about the hut. They can ask randoms, and they'll get a reply that nobody's heard of the hut. I found it might be helpful to give players some choices. Of course, they navigate to a cantina as a typical choice. They could use the Cloud City computer system, and then the Royal Casino. They might want to visit that, hearing about the tournament. So having some choices there for them may be helpful. I just used a Cloud City background and had a bunch of NPCs on here that they can talk to. But essentially, the plot sort of gets stuck unless they mention the hut to somebody. It took a little bit for my players to do that. So it might be helpful to have an NPC that they would ask about the hut, particularly a Nemoidian, since they just came from Cato Nemoidia. A Nemoidian might be a NPC that they would actually mention the hut to. Once they mention the hut, the plot can move forward. Crash sends the party a warning message from a mysterious source saying stop asking questions about Darga, which is why we need that. They need to ask questions about Darga to move forward. Crash hacks the message and gives the party the origins of the message. So the party can move, get away from the crowds, and then we get to give descriptions of Cloud City's underbelly, which is the industrial complex with Ugnaught workers. And then I put in a little bit of foreshadowing with a description of the Minox, which are these bat-like creatures that suck off the Tabana gas tanks and fill their bellies, and if they die, they explode. So I just had a little brief challenge in there while they're navigating the underbelly where a Minox blows up and the Tabana gas sort of explodes around them, just as a foreshadowing component. They navigate to the Parliament of Guilds, where they find the Ugnaughts, Fyron and Krieg here. They sent the missive to dissuade the party from the hut in order to protect them, but, they sort of disagree. One of them accuses the other of doing it on purpose to help with their situation. In a nutshell, some Ugnaughts have been siphoning gas and selling it to Darga. The Parliament has thus put greater restrictions on all Ugnaughts, giving them a bad reputation. So they have more information on Darga if the players agree to help, and they point the players to a gas storage area where they feel the rogue culprits are working. This combat involves several environmental factors, exploding Minox and high heat gas valves. In addition, I had a gaping hole that led to the orange gas planet below. They can kill or capture the rogue Ugnaughts and bring them back to Krieg and Fyron, where they're told about Darga's upcoming transaction at the Sabak tournament and to visit the Yerith Bespin Hotel or Royal Casino. I think my players could have skipped this entire Tabana Gas Ugnaught situation. But it makes sense for the story to flesh this out a bit. I think you could also use an Ugnaught as an ally later if the party finds themselves in hot water. The casino is closed when they go to visit it, but the hotel nearby is busy as folks check in. And I've got a theater of the mind for the casino and the hotel scene. They find a noble imperial with bodyguards, and this guy is acting like a Chad. He is harassing the workers at the hotel and saying he needs better accommodations. My players needed some motivation to follow him, so I was sure to say, as he's leaving the casino, you get a sense that your only lead on Darga may disappear into the crowd because this is a imperial noble. So he needs to be followed. Combat was pretty straightforward with clues that this noble is specially trained to resist force powers. My players left his bodyguards unconscious, which came back to create a complication for them. Combat happens in the street, and essentially I made sure there was some urgency to not stick around. They kept the noble unconscious and brought him into his own hotel room for interrogation. But the party really just needs the key card. So I gave them a Theater of the Mind suite here. And these were the troopers that came back because they know where he's staying in the hotel. So they left them unconscious, which complicated some things. And then once they're in the suite, they can level up. I'm using a little bit advanced leveling, so that way at the end they're at level 20 for some time and get to use their level 20 skills. So this is a level up to level 6. Now on to the tournament. The tournament consists of several days and builds up to a secret trade and casino floor combat. Here is how I ran it. The setup involved figuring out how to get into the tournament. Options include becoming a player, signing up for security, or being a spectator. My B2 Battle Droid players signed up for security, and I had the security lead, Jacques Mondelbrot, use him as sort of a tourist trap, as he was a B2 Battle Droid, and these things are, formidable and intense looking, and a relic of the Clone Wars, so I used that as a plot point to, bring him away from the casino floor, away from security, which was helpful because I think that player missed one session. So one thing my players did, they got into the computer system with the help of Crash to learn more about Sabak player signups. I rewarded this thinking by giving them access to the Rogues Gallery, which shows them suspects that could be Darga's secret agents. They should know on the first day the arrival of the Imperial Lieutenant Armin Arandis, who is clearly an Imperial. He's got a uniform, and it should be obvious that is the agent for the Imperials. Another mystery could be Switch's contact in the tournament, if the players didn't sign up for Switch's plan to back up his person in order to get a certain percentage. This worked great for my table since they didn't back Switch's man because they had a player that was in the tournament themselves. So days 1 and 2 of the tournament, my main card player Gambler was not able to play, so I stalled a bit with roleplay and building up the mystery of Darga's contact. Security players worked the main doors and had to decide what to do with weapons being brought in. The Disruptor pistol is a good foreshadowing here, as Darga will have it later. So I had someone trying to bring in a Disruptor pistol. My security player was able to confiscate it and investigate it and learn about the pistol, meaning that when you drop to 0 hit points with that pistol, you disintegrate. There's no coming back from it. So, little foreshadowing there. You can also instill some distrust from Jacques Mandelbrot if they don't handle that confiscation well. For example, if they keep the gun for themselves, if they don't catch the gun, we can have that show up later on the casino floor, and he can check the cameras, so to speak, and say, oh, this was your player who didn't man the door that well, if it was a low roll on perception or investigation. There's also some security working with Silas Draver, who shows up later. So you could build up some tension with some of the other security folks that aren't on the party's side. My players were heavily focused on the communication disruptor pins that all gamblers wear so they can't cheat. There's nothing in the adventure about those being tampered with, so my players were climbing up the wrong tree, but it was entertaining nonetheless. The first few days gives them a chance to talk with any of the rogue gallery NPCs, and the adventure gives sample conversations with several of them. Between days 2 and 3, or whenever you feel that it works, you can insert the On the Heights combat. This is essentially Silas Draver noticing their meddling and wanting to get rid of them. My players were skillful and avoided this battle completely, and I don't think it's necessary, other than to convey that they're noticed and unwanted in the casino and in the tournament. And maybe that Silas is pulling some strings behind everything. There's also an optional tense scene with a Deveronian male named Zygar, who flips out and holds a blaster to the temple of Lieutenant Arandis. Arandis doesn't flinch, and we see how the players respond. Be sure to mention over the course of the first few days that Lieutenant Armin Arandis puts his cards away in a certain organized and efficient manner. This will tip players off later when he does it differently. Once my gambler player joined, I had a whole spreadsheet of NPCs he would have to beat in the SW5e tournament through rounds. We used a simplified gambling rules for uptime gambling, which acts a bit like rock, paper, scissors. And for the last table, it came down to some primary players. Lieutenant Arandis, the Imperial agent. Lady Fioro, who is later revealed to be Darga's agent if the players haven't figured it out already. Captain Morrow, backed by Switch's man. Born Zadeh, which is a Nemoidian that might throw the party off the scent, and then Silas Draver, and maybe your player as well. So a full table, and before the final card is dropped, the players witness Lieutenant Arandis losing a sizable pot to Lady Fioro and arranges cards on the table in a particular fashion. I set this up. The adventure basically gives this mystery to the players, just lets them know what it's for. However, I created a puzzle using these sabacc cards, and my players had a key to the puzzle that lists the cards and sort of what they mean. So it's pretty easy to decipher if your players like puzzles and they put the work in. My players are pretty laissez-faire when it comes to the game, so nobody really put much thought into this until they needed it. But this comes into play later. So the arranged cards in such an order, and you can decide whatever code you wanted. Once the winner is announced, Lady Fioro or your player, Jock comes to congratulate the winner with a secure datapad with the credits. Silas Draver interrupts and put a pistol to Lady Fioro as we have a casino shootout. Have your players be the only security in the room and maybe involve some balconies or some interesting terrain. They can throw some tables over for cover, etc. We move on to part 3 as the shootout dissipates. We railroad the combat to make sure that Lieutenant Arandis is dead and Lady Fioro is dying. With her dying breath, she gives the party the location of Darga in Hangar Bay 4414, as well as the code being command codes for a slave circuit. And all this dialogue is available in the adventure. When I ran this, my players learned from Jacques Mandelbrot that Imperial forces were descending on the casino and the party is being blamed for Arandis' death. And we cue the chase through the city. Chases can be hard to run, but I think it went pretty well. Unfortunately, many players want to defeat all enemies and loot the bodies, which isn't great for a chase scene. Emphasize how they hear more stormtroopers coming soon and how they see Imperial vessels dropping squads off in various parts of the city. Something to keep them moving. Ultimately, I felt like the combat was going on too long, so I had them do a skill check and run through the streets to the hangar bay. They enter the hangar bay, and I made the mistake, two mistakes here. One, I made the hangar bay very big, resulting in Darga's abilities not affecting the party as well. So doubled the distance of his abilities. And then number two, I just had the players come in and say roll initiative. Don't do that. Let's give some opportunity for dialogue. Darga is looking to see if they have Denia with them. If not, he wants to teach them a lesson. This battle also involves some Z95 headhunters waiting to be plucked. I ran it so my players could jump in, and the combat was a bit wild. It was fun, and I'm playing in Foundry, so lots of things were automated. However, if you're a new DM or want to keep things simple, maybe the Z95s are not powered up yet, and it'll take a full minute or 10 rounds for them to power up. That way, they're still available after the combat, but it won't get too complicated. I made Darga have a second phase just for fun, and this encounter has been building for several sessions, so it should be epic. And it's not over from there. The party should get a missive from the Banshee indicating the presence of the Assiduous and the gas hauler heading towards a vessel full of slaves. There's a quick little combat with some cloud cars before we do the skirmish over Bespin. This starship combat was great. The players have pressure on them, and they must make choices. They could either fight the ties or they blow up the hauler. Or if they're smart, they might use that slave circuit code to redirect the hauler or to unlock the still slave ship. I had fun with this moment from my pilot when he finally got the code and gave the command to turn off the engines. And the momentum the hauler was still under was heading towards the slave ship. Ultimately, they didn't connect the dots on releasing the slave ship from its frozen status using the same codes. They turned the gas hauler towards the Assiduous and then bolted, leaving the slave ship to its fate. I had them make astrogation checks, which will affect their ship's status in the next episode. Just before they take off, they get their first conversation with our campaign big bad guy, Inquisitor Valen Draco. I had the previous apprentice of my ex-Jedi be in the conversation as well, hinting at a future battle between Master and Padawan. Overall, I really liked the time spent on Bespin and Cloud City. One player died in the starship combat at the end, further fueling tension between the party and the Empire.
Did I just die?
It's still a very railroaded campaign, but when I opened it up for players, they felt lost. It's hard to find a happy medium while still moving the plot forward. I hope these are helpful. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time for episode 4.